"Take off my mother's necklace," Helena said. The orchestra stopped in the middle of a waltz. Every face in the Pembroke ballroom turned towards the entrance. Duchess Helena Pembroke stood beneath the marble arch in a dark sapphire gown, her posture perfectly composed. She had not arrived alone. At her side were Lady Margaret Ashford, 2 trustees of her maternal estate, a solicitor, and a royal notary carrying a sealed leather case. Across the ballroom, Lady Celestine Vale touched the ruby necklace, resting against her throat. She had entered in Helena's carriage. She had dressed in Helena's private apartments. Now she sat in Helena's chair beside Duke Adrian Pembroke during a celebration marking 12 years of his marriage. Adrian rose. "Those are Pembroke jewels." Mr. Nathaniel Graves, Helena's solicitor, opened a bound inventory. "No, Your Grace. The necklace forms part of the Duchess's maternal trust. It was never transferred to the ducal estate." Celestine looked at Adrian. "You told me it belonged to you." Helena's expression did not change. "He tells women whatever permits him to keep what belongs to them." A whisper spread through the guests. Adrian descended from the platform. "You will not turn our marriage into a legal spectacle." Helena handed the notary a sealed document. "No, Adrian. You did that when you seated your mistress in my chair." The notary broke the seal. "At midnight," he announced, "all payments from the Duchess's private trust to the Pembroke household will cease." The ballroom fell silent. Helena looked at her husband. "You wanted the freedom of an unmarried man." She removed her wedding ring. "Tonight you receive its cost." 12 years earlier, Adrian and Helena had married for love. Their families considered the match advantageous, but neither had entered it merely for land or title. Adrian had been charming, ambitious, and fiercely alive whenever he spoke about reforming Pembroke. Helena had admired the certainty with which he imagined a better estate. He had admired her intelligence. During their courtship, he had told her that most men feared clever women because cleverness made obedience less likely. "I do not want obedience," he had said. "What do you want?" "A partner who will tell me when I am wrong." Helena had believed him. For several years, he had meant it. When Adrian inherited the dukedom, Pembroke was burdened by debt. The estate possessed grand houses, extensive land, and an impressive name, but its accounts revealed decades of careless borrowing. Roofs leaked. Tenant cottages required repair. The infirmary could not pay its surgeon. The waterworks were unfinished. Several creditors were preparing to demand immediate repayment. Adrian possessed political skill and family influence. Helena possessed capital. More importantly, she understood how to use it. Her marriage settlement kept much of her maternal inheritance inside a separate trust. Its income could support the Pembroke household, but the principal remained legally hers. She used that income generously. She guaranteed emergency loans. She negotiated lower interest rates through her family's bankers. She restored the infirmary, reopened the village schools, and ensured laborers received their wages through 2 failed harvests. Adrian appeared before Parliament and spoke about responsible aristocratic stewardship. Helena remained behind the doors of banks, estate offices, and charitable boards, making his promises possible. At first, he acknowledged it. "Pembroke still stands because of you," he once said. "Pembroke stands because many people chose not to abandon it. You always make success sound communal." "It usually is." He kissed her then. Years later, the same answer began to irritate him. Helena's competence became impossible for society to overlook. Bankers requested her presence during negotiations. Political wives sought invitations to her drawing room. Foreign diplomats discovered that Helena remembered every commitment Adrian made during dinner. Newspapers praised Pembroke's schools and medical work. One editorial called her the administrative intelligence behind the ducal vision. Adrian laughed when he first read it. By the third similar article, he stopped laughing. He began making decisions without consulting her. When those decisions failed, he still asked her to repair them. When they succeeded, he accepted congratulations alone. Helena noticed the change, but did not immediately understand it. She thought pressure had made him defensive. She reduced her public appearances. She allowed Adrian to announce projects she had designed. She stopped correcting him in front of guests. None of it restored what they had once shared. Her silence did not make him feel respected. It taught him to expect her work without acknowledging it. Adrian met Lady Celestine Vale during the London season. She was a widow of 32 with a fashionable house, a celebrated singing voice, and no interest in discussing agricultural rents. At the opera, she told Adrian his parliamentary address had been the finest of the year. Helena had read the same speech and advised him to remove 3 claims the estate accounts could not support. Celestine asked nothing about accuracy. She said he had looked magnificent delivering it. Adrian began visiting her salon. Then he began visiting after the other guests had left. He told himself that Celestine offered an escape from duty. She admired him without qualification. She did not ask what his policies cost. She did not remind him which charities Helena's money sustained. With Celestine, he could believe that his authority came entirely from himself. The affair lasted 3 months before Helena confirmed it. She had suspected something earlier. Adrian stayed away overnight and blamed late parliamentary debates. Bills appeared from a jeweler Helena had not used. Her carriage was requested for journeys she had not authorized. The Pembroke box at the theatre was occupied on evenings. Adrian claimed to be dining with ministers. Still, Helena did not accuse him without certainty. Then, one morning, she saw him leave Celestine's house. Adrian descended the steps shortly after dawn, his evening clothes hidden beneath a traveling coat. He looked up. Helena was inside her carriage across the square. For several seconds, neither moved. Adrian did not appear ashamed. He looked inconvenienced. That evening, Helena waited for him in the library. Adrian entered after dinner, poured himself brandy, and closed the door. "How long?" she asked. He did not pretend not to understand. "Several months." "Does she know you still share my household?" "She understands that our marriage has changed." "Did you tell her I had agreed to that change?" Adrian looked away. "Our marriage has fulfilled its public purpose. It need not govern every private affection." Helena stared at him. "You are not asking for privacy. You are demanding permission to humiliate me without consequence." "I have not humiliated you. You leave another woman's house at dawn. No public accusation has been made. So betrayal is acceptable until someone names it." He set down the glass. "Men in my position have always maintained private arrangements. Then men in your position have always depended upon women being denied the power to leave." His expression hardened. "You possess my name, my household, and my public loyalty. Must you also possess every private feeling? I asked for fidelity, not possession." "You speak as though affection were a contract. You speak as though vows were decorative." Adrian turned towards the fire. "This need not destroy anything. Helena understood then that he expected her cooperation, not forgiveness, cooperation. Adrian proposed what he called a practical arrangement. Helena would remain Duchess of Pembroke. She would continue managing the estate's financial obligations and charitable programs. They would appear together at political events. Celestine would remain in London. Nothing would be discussed publicly. Adrian would preserve his title, household, and reputation. Helena would preserve the appearance of marriage. "What exactly do I receive?" she asked. "Security, position, the continuation of everything we have built." "And what do you receive?" He did not answer. Helena did it for him. "My fortune, my work, my silence, my public loyalty, and another woman's affection." That is a deliberately cruel interpretation. It is an accurate inventory. You have too much invested in Pembroke to destroy it over sentiment. The words settled between them. Adrian believed they were reasonable. Helena heard the threat beneath them. He thought her responsibility to the estate would keep her captive. When Helena refused the arrangement, Adrian began removing her from the life they had built. He reassigned her London study to one of his political secretaries. He moved her correspondence to the Eastern Wing. Her name disappeared from invitations issued by the ducal household. Celestine began using Helena's carriage. At the theatre, Adrian placed Celestine in the Pembroke box and told acquaintances that Helena was unwell. When Helena protested, he said she was behaving emotionally. Soon, he began telling friends their marriage had long been cold. He suggested Helena cared more for ledgers than affection. He transformed his betrayal into evidence of her failure. The anniversary ball was the final insult. For 12 years, Helena had organized the event herself. This year, Adrian excluded her from every decision. He announced that she had chosen not to attend because she was unable to behave civilly. Then he invited Celestine. He gave her Helena's carriage, her dressing room, her chair, and the ruby necklace that had belonged to Helena's mother. Adrian believed Helena would remain away rather than risk a scandal. He had mistaken dignity for surrender. While Adrian planned the ball, Helena prepared her departure. She did not move in anger. She reviewed 12 years of accounts. She identified which properties had been purchased through her trust. She separated charitable funds from the ducal office so schools and infirmaries would not collapse when she withdrew. She arranged direct payment of estate wages for the next 3 months. She notified the banks that her guarantees would end. She instructed Nathaniel Graves to catalogue every expenditure Adrian had made for Celestine: the house, the servants, the jewelry, the theatre box, the carriage use. She discovered that Adrian had paid for some of it from household funds supported almost entirely by her income. Lady Margaret watched her sign the final papers. "Do you still love him?" she asked. "Yes." "Then this will hurt. It already does. Do you wish to remain because you choose him, or because everyone benefits when you endure him?" Helena looked towards the trust documents. "That is the question he never expected me to ask." The anniversary ballroom glittered beneath chandeliers when Helena arrived. Celestine sat beside Adrian wearing the ruby necklace. The guests understood exactly what they were witnessing. Some were embarrassed. Others were fascinated. No one intervened. Adrian had depended upon that silence as much as he depended upon Helena's. Then Helena spoke. "Take off my mother's necklace." The music stopped. Celestine touched the rubies. Adrian rose. "Those are Pembroke jewels." Nathaniel opened the inventory. "No, Your Grace." Celestine looked at Adrian. You told me it was yours. Helena she believed what you told her. I no longer do. Celestine unclasped the necklace immediately. Her hands trembled as she placed it in its case. Adrian descended from the platform. This is a private matter. Celestine stood. You made me public when you placed me in her chair. For the first time, Adrian looked uncertain. The notary began reading the separation notice. At midnight, all payments from Helena's trust to the Pembroke household would cease. Her London residence would return to her sole control. The ducal carriage used by Celestine had been purchased through Helena's private funds and would be removed. The theatre box belonged to her trust. The household accounts would no longer cover Celestine's expenses. Every payment Adrian had authorized from jointly administered funds would be audited. The Pembroke Infirmary and schools would transfer to independent boards. Helena's personal guarantee of Adrian's loans would end. A banker near the front of the ballroom stood. Your Grace, without Her Grace's guarantee, the April obligation requires new security. Adrian looked towards him. This is hardly the proper time. The bank was informed this afternoon. Guests began whispering. Adrian turned on Helena. You intend to ruin Pembroke. No. I have protected its workers and charities from your debts. You cannot withdraw everything without consequence. I know. You claim to care for the estate. I do. That is why I will no longer allow its survival to depend upon my willingness to finance your contempt. Celestine removed the final bracelet Adrian had given her. You told me your wife had agreed. Adrian's voice sharpened. This is a private matter between husband and wife. No, Celestine said. You made me part of it. She placed the bracelet beside the rubies and walked out of the ballroom. Adrian did not follow her. He looked instead at Helena. You said you would never abandon Pembroke. I am not abandoning Pembroke. She removed her wedding ring. You said I had too much invested in it to leave. The entire ballroom watched as she placed the ring upon the table between them. You never considered that I might stop investing in you. Helena left the ballroom before midnight. Lady Margaret and Nathaniel Graves accompanied her to the carriage, but neither tried to speak. The sounds of the orchestra did not resume behind them. The musicians had packed away their instruments. The guests were already leaving. By morning, every drawing-room in London knew that the Duchess of Pembroke had withdrawn her fortune from her husband during their anniversary ball. Adrian remained in the ballroom long after the final carriage departed. The ruby necklace rested inside its open case. Helena's wedding ring lay beside it. He reached for neither. At 8 the next morning, 3 bankers arrived at Pembroke House. Without Helena's guarantee, Adrian's April loan no longer qualified for extension. The outstanding amount had been secured by income from properties that belonged to her trust. Adrian attempted to explain that the separation was temporary. The senior banker answered carefully. Her Grace's notice contains no temporary language. I remain Duke of Pembroke. Your title is not listed as security. Adrian stared at him. For 12 years, creditors had entered his study with deference. He had believed they trusted his judgment. Now he understood that much of their confidence had belonged to Helena's signature. What do you require? Replacement security within 30 days. And if I cannot provide it, the bank will claim the pledged assets. Adrian looked towards Nathaniel, who had attended on Helena's behalf. You arranged this humiliation. Nathaniel's expression remained neutral. I advised you repeatedly that Her Grace's assets were not yours. You served our household. I served the legal settlement protecting both parties. Do not pretend neutrality after destroying my credit. Your Grace, Lady Helena did not borrow against your reputation. You borrowed against her money. Adrian went directly to Helena's London residence. The house had already been transferred into the control of her trustees. A servant he recognized met him at the entrance. Her Grace is not receiving visitors. I am not a visitor. The man did not move. Her instructions were explicit. Adrian had employed that servant for 9 years. Or so he had believed. The man's wages had been paid from Helena's household account. Adrian looked past him into the entrance hall. Helena stood at the far end, speaking with the manager of the hospital trust. She saw him. After a moment, she approached. You barred me from my own house. This house belongs to my maternal trust. It was our London home. It wasn't until you placed my belongings in the eastern wing and brought Celestine into my rooms. Adrian lowered his voice. May we speak privately? Helena led him into a small morning room. He expected anger. Instead, she opened a ledger. These are the payments made for Lady Celestine. Adrian glanced at the page. I will repay them. With what? He ignored the question. I ended the relationship. Celestine ended it. She left because of what you did. Helena closed the ledger. No. She left because she learned what you had done. You made certain the entire room witnessed it. You had already invited the room to witness my replacement. Adrian began pacing. I behaved badly. You made a sustained series of choices. I admitted the affair only after I saw you leaving her house. I am standing here now. Yes, because the bank stood in your study this morning. He stopped. You believe I regret only the consequences. I believe you have not yet separated the consequences from the betrayal. The newspapers did not allow Adrian to hide behind silence. One reported the anniversary ball as a dispute over property. Another printed the cost of Celestine's house and servants. A political journal asked why a man campaigning for moral discipline in public life had financed his mistress through household funds supported by his wife. Adrian's allies advised him to blame Celestine. She is a fashionable widow, one said. People will believe she pursued you. Adrian nearly accepted the suggestion. It would have been easy. Celestine had known he was married. She had accepted gifts and public attention. Society was prepared to condemn her more severely than him. Then a letter arrived in her hand. It contained no affection, only an itemized list of every gift she was returning. At the bottom, she had written, "You did not choose me over your wife. You expected to possess us both in different rooms." Adrian folded the letter and dismissed his advisers. For the first time, he refused to call Celestine a seductress. The decision did not repair anything, but it was the first consequence he did not attempt to place upon a woman. Helena moved quickly to protect the estate. The schools and infirmary became independent charities governed by trustees. Tenant wages were paid directly from a reserve she had created before the separation. The waterworks continued because the contracts no longer depended upon Adrian's personal credit. Helena did not seize the land. She did not close the hospital. She did not punish the servants who had concealed his movements. She separated the lives of innocent people from the marriage that had failed them. Adrian had accused her of destroying Pembroke. Within weeks, it became clear she had saved the parts of Pembroke that did not belong to his pride. What remained under Adrian's sole control was much smaller. His hunting horses were sold. The racing stable closed. The yacht went to a Liverpool merchant. Several paintings left the ancestral gallery. Pembroke House remained his, but entire wings were shut to reduce expenses. The political dinners stopped. Without Helena's salon, many guests simply ceased to come. Adrian discovered that invitations had not been accepted merely because he was the most interesting man in London. Helena had remembered every spouse, rivalry, illness, and private grievance. She had seated opponents apart. She had brought useful allies together. She had turned Adrian's speeches into relationships. He had called those evenings his influence. Now he saw the work behind them. The Crown suspended Adrian from his ceremonial appointment pending review of the scandal. He protested that his private conduct had no bearing upon public service. The minister reviewing the matter replied, "You used household funds under disputed authority, publicly displaced your duchess, and misrepresented the condition of your marriage to multiple parties. The issue is not romance. It is judgment." Adrian resigned before he could be dismissed. His public apology came 3 days later. He did not deliver it from Parliament. He spoke from the Pembroke Estate Hall before trustees, servants, tenants, and members of the press. "I was not deceived," he said. "No one shifted. No woman forced me to betray my vows. Lady Celestine knew I was married, but I was the person who had promised fidelity." He looked towards the household staff. "I required servants to conceal my conduct, and then treated their silence as loyalty." Several lowered their eyes. "I used money I did not own. I gave away objects that were not mine. I placed my wife's dignity beneath my convenience, and called the arrangement practical. Helena was not present. Adrian had invited her. She had declined." He continued, "I did not lose my wife because another woman tempted me. I lost her because I believed her love removed her right to leave." The apology was printed widely. Some called it courageous. Helena did not. She called it accurate. Accuracy was the beginning, not absolution. Adrian visited her several weeks later. This time, he requested an appointment through her secretary. Helena received him in the library. He looked thinner, not ruined, not broken, simply stripped of the ease he had mistaken for his own achievement. "I have repaid the trust for Celestine's expenses," he said. "I received the notice. I sold the horses. I know. I resigned from the Crown appointment. That was appropriate." He sat opposite her. "What do you require from me?" Helena looked at him for a long moment. "You still approach this as a negotiation." "I am trying to understand the conditions." "There are no conditions that purchase forgiveness." "Then tell me what action matters. Stop describing the affair as the event that destroyed us." He frowned. What else was it? The affair was the result of something already present. Adrian remained silent. "You resented my competence," Helena said. "You accepted my work and despised the evidence that you needed it. You wanted a woman who admired the public man without seeing the private dependence. That is not entirely fair. It does not need to flatter you to be fair." He looked away. Helena continued. "You did not seek Celestine merely because you desired her. You sought a room in which you could feel powerful without being accountable." Adrian's first instinct was denial. He felt it rise. Then he remembered the opera, the praise, the relief of never being questioned. "Yes," he said. The word cost him more than the public apology had. Their legal separation became formal. Helena retained her title but established a separate household. Adrian agreed not to enter her properties without invitation. He surrendered any claim to manage her trust. The estate council gained authority over Pembroke finances. No major debt could be incurred by the Duke alone. Adrian disliked the arrangement. He signed it anyway. For the first time in his adult life, his title did not guarantee final authority over every room carrying his family name. He began attending estate meetings without presiding over them. When trustees rejected his proposal for a ceremonial renovation, he did not threaten to dissolve the board. When tenants objected to a rent increase, he listened to the figures Helena's former managers presented. He learned that leadership continued, even when admiration did not. Celestine sent one final request. She wanted to meet Helena privately. Helena agreed. They met in a quiet drawing room with no witnesses beyond Lady Margaret. Celestine did not ask forgiveness. "I knew he was married," she said. "Yes. I believed the marriage was over." "You believed what allowed you to continue." Celestine lowered her eyes. "Yes." She returned 2 letters from Adrian containing claims that Helena had agreed to separate lives. "I thought you should have them." Helena did not read them. "I do not need more proof of his lies. I am not offering proof. I am returning something that belongs to the harm I helped create." Helena accepted the letters. Celestine said, "He tried to tell me you had humiliated us both." "And what did you tell him?" "That he had arranged the stage." Helena studied her. "I will not make you the sole villain in his story. I do not deserve innocence." "No, but neither do you deserve his responsibility." They did not become friends. They left with the truth divided accurately between them. A year passed. Adrian did not ask Helena to return. He wrote only when estate matters required it. His letters no longer mixed apology with persuasion. He stopped sending jewelry. He stopped invoking memories as arguments. He attended charitable events without attempting to stand beside her for photographs. When newspapers speculated that reconciliation was near, he issued a correction. "Her Grace owes the public no explanation, and owes me no return." Helena read the sentence twice. It was the first public statement in which Adrian protected her freedom rather than his image. Still, she did not go back. 2 years after the anniversary ball, Helena opened a new infirmary on the northern edge of Pembroke. The building had been financed through her independent trust and governed by local physicians, tenants, and charitable trustees. Adrian attended as a private guest. He did not speak from the platform. He stood among estate workers while Helena opened the doors. After the ceremony, he found her in the garden. "You built something that does not require me," he said. "That was necessary. I once believed marriage meant you would remain after every failure." Helena looked towards him. "Marriage meant you were trusted not to choose the failure." Adrian nodded. He did not defend himself. "I know now that love without the freedom to leave is not loyalty. It is captivity made respectable." Helena watched him carefully. Those words would once have sounded like another speech. Now there was no audience, no reporter, no advantage to gain. "You understand more than you did," she said. "Not enough to ask you back." The answer surprised her. "What are you asking?" "Permission to walk with you." Helena looked down the garden path. Her wedding ring remained locked inside her private desk. She had not worn it since the ball. She did not promise to wear it again. But she began walking. Adrian moved beside her, leaving enough distance that she could choose whether to close it. For several minutes, neither spoke. Pembroke had survived without Helena returning to the role Adrian had designed for her. Its people were protected. Its debts were controlled. Its charities no longer depended upon the private endurance of one woman. Adrian had kept his title. He had lost the illusion that the title entitled him to Helena's fortune, labor, silence, or body. He had once believed he could offer affection to another woman, while Helena preserved everything valuable in his life. Only after she withdrew did he understand the truth. He had not merely betrayed a wife. He had attempted to divide her into useful parts, the fortune that paid his debts, the mind that managed his estate, the name that protected his reputation. The woman expected to remain silent. Helena's departure made her whole again. Whether she would ever choose to rebuild their marriage remained unanswered. This time, Adrian did not demand an answer. He walked beside her without assuming the destination belonged to him.